Welcome back to the second session of Where Love Lives. This principle says that love desires wholeness. You've probably encountered that in today's culture, loneliness and a lack of relationship is a serious problem. In fact, it's already been classified by our government as a public health threat. It's one of the reasons that we decided that we really needed a study that talked about relationship and how do we practically engage those around us and how do we make our relationships better. I want to share with you some more research that speaks to the why, the reasons behind why we did this study and why it's important to talk about relationships and how to engage them well. 20% of Americans say that they are chronically lonely. We know from research that people who have few social connections are 2 to 3 times as likely to experience depression and anxiety. We've learned from research that there are blue zones around the world, geographic regions where the quality of life is perceived as really high and where they have an extended longevity. And the research has shown that the one correlating factor across the blue zones is that people in those particular areas experience high levels of connection, of relationship with the people around them. That really tells us how significant it is to be connected to other people. Any leadership book you pick up, any business book, will come back to the idea of relationships being significant and where it really starts to begin to get traction, even in your business life. I want to talk about not just the why, but also the how. How do we do this? How do we begin to really feed into the relationships that matter and that are meaningful? Last time we talked about that love seeks relationship. We talked about being intentional and about our 4 different categories of relationship. This time we're going to talk about what it is that gets at the root of how people connect, and that is that love desires wholeness. When you care about someone, you want the best for them. It's hard sometimes to express that because a lot of times we come into situations with our own barriers and our own things that keep us from being able to relate well. I think of them like a box. So I bet you have one. I have one. Most people do. And the box has things in it like insecurity, anxiety, past experience, rejections we've encountered. And it's kind of like we put it all in a box and we carry the box with us everywhere we go. When we feel that we're going into social situations, that there are higher stakes, our boxes can get bigger because of our expectations of where we're headed. One time I remember really being aware of how much stuff I had that I was carrying into a situation. It was my first year of college and I had just left home to go to school and I didn't know a soul. And the very first day I walked into the student center, it was packed with people and they all were busy. They all looked like they were having a great time and I knew no one. And it overwhelmed me. How am I possibly going to find my own spot in this campus? And I went from the front of the student union and I went as fast as I could to the other end of the student union and I got sick. I was so stuck on my own stuff that I couldn't think about sitting down and having coffee or starting a conversation with someone else. I was full of what was in my own box of worry. Almost everybody goes into social situations with these, and we can begin to desire wholeness and to really develop relationships by helping other people get rid of their own boxes. And we start by putting our own down. We start by refusing to let that define us. We start by being aware of it and calling a truce with it and saying, you know, I have these feelings, but I'm not going to let them define how I engage and react to other people. I'm going to choose to act out of a place of expecting that it's going to have a good outcome. When we encounter someone else and we are aware they probably carry their own box, we can first desire their wholeness by essentially taking their box from them. All the insecurity kind of falls away when someone looks at you in the eye and they say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I've heard that you're really good at, and you're able to engage a person in a conversation and assure them that their box is not keeping you from caring about them. This looks a lot different the farther you get into a relationship, but even inside really close, sweet friendships, there's usually a box. And sometimes that relationship has contributed to what's in between those two people. So being aware of it and not letting that define the relationship, getting past that place of insecurity is what can help to desire wholeness for the other person. Take a moment to list things that are in your box that create barriers to connecting or relating well with others, and then discuss as a group. Here are some practical ways that you can help another person find wholeness in your relationship with them. One of them is to focus on being interested in them instead of being interesting. You know, people are most concerned about what's happening in their own lives, and so one of the first ways you can draw a person out is to simply be interested. Ask them about things that are significant to them, and take the time to see them, to know them, and to value them by asking them and listening to their responses. You can be vulnerable. It's not ever going to be an authentic relationship where one person is doing all of the sharing, and you can desire their wholeness by sharing with them experiences that you've had that say, I've been there and I know what you're talking about and I feel your pain with you. You can make a plan. I have to do this strategically. So I was aware that I wasn't connecting with some people in my life on a regular basis. And so I really make an intentional effort to every day text or contact in some way somebody that I haven't talked to or encouraged in a while. A simple text that says, hey, I'm thinking about you. I want you to know that I enjoy our friendship or that I want to get together soon, really speaks to someone and tells them they really are important to you. It helps them find wholeness. Another way you can desire wholeness for someone else is to develop a habit or a ritual that you do just with them. It can be something super simple, like a hug when you see them as a greeting. But there are some times when something unique develops between two people, and it really helps cement that bond in a new way. There are two things I think of in my life specifically about this, and one is with my son. He began when he got his phone to randomly take pictures of roadkill or dead things, squirrels or lizards or whatever, and send them to me. And it was gross, but it was also kind of funny that he thought that I needed to see them too. And so I surprised him one day by sending one back to him. It doesn't happen often, but a lot of times when he's away on a trip and we haven't communicated in a while, I'll get a picture of something dead, which is gross, but also funny. And it also reconnects us in a way that's uniquely ours. My dad had another one too that he did with all of us as his children, and that was 3 little taps. It was his way of saying, I love you. And he did that because it wouldn't embarrass us when we were out in public or around friends. He could very subtly encourage us and tell us, I love you and I see you, without having to say a word. That was our little habit. Don't make it complicated. Whether you're listening really well, whether you're asking good questions, being vulnerable, whether you're focusing on being interested in what they are doing and who they are instead of trying to be interesting, whether you're developing a habit or a ritual, the whole idea of this principle is that you are thinking about the other person. How do I put down my own stuff? And how do I focus on them to draw them out and help them feel seen, known, and valued? This principle is love desires wholeness.